wanted to speak to you a little bit today about how trauma in childhood can impact us throughout a lifetime. Um, as we experience loss, as we experience grief, our ability to tolerate those kind of things in our life can also link back to what we experienced growing up. And I think about a little girl that I assisted years ago who had experienced a tremendous amount of trauma in her life to the point where she was removed from her parents' home. She had very little control over her behavior. She would throw herself to the floor, scream, thrash, and any little bit of stress created that. And at 6 years old, this story was already so devastating that this kid had experienced that kind of loss that soon, that there were times that she would lash out at others and had to be restrained. So I was trained on how to restrain her, and I was the one that was always called when the behaviors would happen. And all I would do was sit Indian style on the floor, wrap my arms around her so she couldn't hurt herself or me or anybody else. And I would rock her and I would tell her, just let it out, just let it out. And she would scream and she would cry. And it was heartbreaking. And what I had come to realize in my own world after helping a child like that, so many things that, like this little girl's story, that can impact us: the loss of safety, the loss of trust, the loss of even bodily autonomy, the loss of childhood in and of itself, the loss of attachment, and definitely loss of stability and loss of identity. This poor kid at 6 didn't know who she was. And, medication will help with behaviors, but until that trauma is dealt with, there's no hope that someone as a child can get through to adulthood without scars and without damage. And that links right into when those people that have lived that kind of a life, hey buddy, experience that, their ability to handle loss and grief changes dramatically. They may lock themselves away. They may abuse substances, whether it be pharmaceutical medicines, whether it be alcohol, whether it be marijuana, food. There's so many ways that they can choose to cope that are less than positive or less than good and actually create more damage and don't heal the grief. So if you know someone, or if you are someone that has dealt with that kind of trauma in situations of loss, what those people need most is your understanding. They don't need to be fixed. Little kids, when they lose, because I've seen kids who've lost parents or who've been removed from their home, what they need is the ability to have somebody just love them. They act out in their nervous system what we as adults might rationalize in our minds. They can't do that yet. They're not capable of handling that kind of stress at that young of an age. So they have no language for it. All they have is the ability to scream or yell or cry. Picture a toddler that throws a temper tantrum. I mean, that's being unable to communicate because of their age. So when you deal with a child, when you deal with an adolescent, when you deal with an adult who has those kind of behaviors, understand that they have experienced some kind of trauma in their world and they need your understanding. Sometimes it's hard to be understanding and patient with people like that because they're not always nice. They don't answer their phone. They don't come when you invite them. There's so many different things that can happen within that realm. And the best thing you can offer, especially if you have a child in your midst that is acting out in school, in life, is hold them, listen to them, love them, and give them what they may be missing. Try to give a voice to what they're experiencing and try to get them in the most basic way possible to explain it to you. And the same thing holds true for an adult who's experienced that kind of trauma. Remember this: grief doesn't always hold trauma, but trauma always, always, always holds grief. So if you're dealing with someone who's experienced trauma, they have a tremendous amount of grief, and that grief doesn't singularly come out in one spot or another. When they lose someone, it drags all of the previous losses with it. So for today, I am asking you to find in your heart the love, empathy, compassion, and patience, to look a little harder when you see someone who's struggling. Today I offer you my love, and until next time, thank you.